Or the two on the right, a bit of a rollover, a little bit to the right there. What are you two up to? That's better. That's better. I like that movement more. There's possibilities. Although they are still looking quite relaxed. And one must remember that sometimes with big cats, getting up is a gradual process, or sometimes it's an instantaneous process, and you never can be quite sure which one you're going to encounter. Oh, they seem to be enjoying the cool windy weather more than we are. Lynn's wondering how close to prey need to be for the cheetah to get active. Oh, Lynn, that is a very good question, but again, it's one of those questions where there is no finite answer. It all depends on what prey species, how hungry they are, what size of the prey is. Well, I suppose that goes down the same, but what prey species again. But all those type of different sort of variables play a massive part in whether the cheetah will get up and start running. If something in the right sort of size range jogged right up to them now, they would get up very, very quickly, as I say, almost instantaneously. They would be up and at it. But as you can see at the moment, they are the opposite of up and at it. And yesterday, while we were waiting for them to do something, we managed to do a bit of birding, and I fortunately don't think that is going to be the case today, because this wind has kept all those little grassland birds, those pipits, larks, wheat ears that we saw yesterday, well and truly sort of bunkered down for the moment. You never know, the wind might lay off in a little bit, but I don't think it's going to. I think we're probably stuck with this wind for the rest of the safari. And as I say, it's not a bad thing. Now, as I said, we're probably not going to see any birds. Maybe Jamie can provide some, and it seems like she already has.
I have actually. I mean, as Brent said, birding is difficult in this weather, but sometimes there are other factors that mitigate its effects, and this is a nice example of the difference between South Africa and the Masai Mara, or at least the Lowveld. In the Lowveld, you'll see wattled starlings, for this is what these birds are. You'll see wattled starlings around the animals, but you won't often see them sitting on the backs of the animals. And just before, while you were still with Brent, the wattle starling was sitting on the back of the zebra and picking off ticks and parasites. So we're used to seeing oxpeckers doing that, but it's not often that we see the wattled starlings hitching a ride on the various animals that in the way that we do in the Mara. Of course, it's very common to see birds moving about where there are big mammals, and that's because as they move about feeding, they disturb insects that the starlings will then run forward and grab. So what we have is the female in front and a male at the back. Strawhead, you say such cool looking birds. It's easy to see where they get... Oh, I'm sorry, I think we've actually got two males. It's easy to see where they get their name wattled starling from. If you have a look at the bird on the left, there you go. A very, very well developed wattle. Display purposes, it's much, much larger in the male than in the female, which immediately tells you what it's used for. No, we've definitely got females and one male. In terms of reproductive advantage, display purposes. Look at me, I've got the biggest wattle of all. So I didn't stop for the wattled starlings, although I'm glad that I did. I stopped because there's an image so beguiling that I just had to show it to you. Of course, as I say that, it decides to relieve itself. But there's two very beguiling little creatures, and it allows us to continue our train of thought on the fluffometer. Tiny, tiny little baby zebras. Still a little bit unsteady on their feet. When I left, this entire area was filled with pregnant females, and now everywhere I look, there's a spindly-legged baby zebra. There's one off to the right that's just about to go and have a drink from Mum. Pale in colour when you compare it to the adults. The stripes are sort of brownish. And I think probably falls into the same place on the fluffometer scale as the hyena, if not even fluffier. I'm always surprised at just how large baby zebra are, even when they're very, very young. And that of course makes sense because they have to have long legs to help to keep up with the zebra. Our kestrel fox, while we watched the little baby zebra, yes, absolutely, the birds were using the zebra to flush out insects in the grass, something that a fork-tailed drongo often does. Back in South Africa, you'll see the drongo swooping in and out around buffaloes. And I'll take you to see the larger flocks of wattle starlings in a second. But not yet. These baby zebra are just too cute. LJK is on the same page as I am. LJK says that they could watch baby zebra all day long. They are just so utterly adorable. There's something, I don't know, there's something so innocent looking about a baby zebra. I don't know if it's the eyes or the face. Perhaps it's just that they have a tendency not to be quite as angry and aggressive as the adults. Generally speaking, zebra are quite short-tempered, quite angry animals, at least with each other. They have very, very little patience. Oh, look at its face. Isn't it too sweet? It's the nice thing about this time of year in the Mara. There's babies everywhere. And then by the time February rolls around, we've got the wildebeest birthing season to look forward to. And while most of them have gone off back towards Tanzania, a number of them have stayed behind. The loiter herds have stayed behind and are on the other side of the river. So we've got baby wildebeest to look forward to as well. Oh, is it nap time? Now that you've had your lunch, or afternoon tea, I guess it would be. But do you want to know where are all the wildebeest? Most of them, as I said, have gone back to Tanzania. They went trotting off across the Sand River, the last final stragglers, probably about a month ago, possibly even a little bit longer. So the wildebeest have gone, but there are still around about, I think the numbers are around between 30 and 50,000. Never leave. They remain permanently based here. So there's about 3 of them behind me that I drove past. Unfortunately, Craig won't be able to film them. It was quite a while ago. But there's about 30 or so thousand, 50 odd thousand wildebeest on the other side of the river. Now, typically, the loiter herd does its own migration back towards the loiter hills. Unfortunately, one of the realities of life is such that that migrational pattern has been changed, and it's been changed by the presence of fences. So chances are most of the loiter herd are going to stay in that area, and we'll see them throughout the year. It apparently has become a pretty standard thing over the past 2 or so years. Sad, very, very sad. The fences, of course, was one of the things that completely ended the massive springbuck migration that used to happen within South Africa, larger even than the great migration that occurs here. Millions of springbuck used to move across the country, but with the increase in population, with the increase in colonial settlements and fences going up, that migration was completely finished. It's not something that's going to happen here because the main route that the wildebeest follow to Tanzania, I'm going like that, but it's actually that way. The main route that they follow will forever remain, well, I hope forever, without fences. So we spoke about the wattled starlings, to move on to happier times. We spoke about the wattled starlings following the zebra, and they are. But let me see if I can get us to where they're flocking around the buffalo, because it's only one or two stragglers that are spending time with the zebra. Most of them are around this herd of buffalo that's up ahead of us. Bye bye, sleepy zebra. Little foals, so cute. Okay, well, I make an attempt to see where this flock of starlings is gone. Let's send you back over to Brent, and here's cats who are feeling very sleepy.
Very sleepy. Even, oh well, one's got its head up now. So we're hoping there is possibly some movement shortly. The more they sort of start rolling around and maybe even having a little bit of a play and grooming is what we're looking for. It means they're probably going to hopefully start getting up. But as you all know, we are 100% live from the African bush, so you never know what could happen next. You can hear we can't even see them, but I can hear some plovers overhead being swept away by the wind. But as I said, the wind is not necessarily a bad thing for the cheetah in terms of their hunting. It could very much aid them this afternoon. Oh, there we go. There's a bit of a yawn. See, those are all very good signs that hopefully in the not too distant future the boys are going to decide to be a little bit more entertaining than they've been all day. Now, I'm not complaining about spending a Sunday basically emulating the cats, but on the vehicle next to them. But it would be nice after maybe probably 8 hours or so now to to get a bit of movement. Now it's going to be very interesting to see which direction they go. We know where they came from, so where they're going to go next. Hello, David. David's wondering, how often do cheetah need to eat? Now, again, it's a very dependent question, depending on what they've caught, how big it is, whether they lost their carcass to another predator. So cheetah, on average, lose about 50% of all the kills they make to lions or hyenas, or even leopard in some cases. But if they catch a nice big, or sub-adult wildebeest or bigger, they probably won't have to eat for a day or two. But if they catch a baby Thompson's gazelle, they're probably going to have to eat again today. It all depends. Is that rain? Or is that just the wind? It's raining. Oh dear. Oh dear. That's not good. It's still just spitting at the moment, coming from behind us. And I'm not feeling it in the car. I can just hear it on the roof. But it does look like the boys are getting ready to get up. So let's just have a quick look. There we go. Lovely stretch. Let's have a quick watch what they do. Now, a little bit of rain is also not a bad thing for them if they're off hunting. There we go. A little bit of grooming, as we were talking about. All good signs that it might be time to get up and get busy. Only D'Artagnan has got his head flat to the ground at the moment. Okay, well, we're going to stick with the cheetah and keep a close eye on what the rain is doing, whether we need to deploy the tent. But while we do that, it seems like Jamie has found the buffalo with the birds.
Well, I guess it was rain and not haze. I think that sort of answers our question as to what's to the south and to the east of us. So we found the birds, but they're playing hard to get. Obviously the buffalo are pretty clear to see. We've got an entire herd sitting here, enjoying some time resting and ruminating in this. Oh, there we go, Craig. There they are. They're in the tree. They've gone back to their tree. So there's this massive flock of wattled starlings, and it keeps splitting up and then coming back together again. I think most of them stayed in that tree again. Quick, over to Brent. Oh dear, as the cheetah got up, the gremlins attacked Brent and now he's vanished off your screens. That's okay, I'm still here. And trying to find you this flock of birds, although I'm right at the point of giving up now. And moving on. Oh goodness. Oh look! Blind-eyed buffalo. Hello. Now don't be shy. It's okay. This buffalo's blind in its left eye. Probably due to some kind of traumatic injury. It's completely covered by a cataract. Of course, now that I'm trying to point that out, it's decided to... There we go. You can see. I'm almost certain that would be complete blindness in that eye. But one-eyed animals are not that uncommon. Okay, Brent's found signal, off you go. Or not. It, in theory, is a lovely idea, but unfortunately in practice it seems as though Brent's signal's just not quite stable enough. Hopefully those cheetah lead him somewhere where he can actually show you what's happening. I'm going to move on though. I'm going to leave our buffalo herd. We'll probably come back here. I wish I could figure out where the Angamas went, because if we could do that, we could determine whether or not we should come back here towards the evening. I've driven all around there, and there were no animals when I drove there this morning, which means if the Angamas are hungry, if they're not on a kill, they're going to have to move up in this direction. I can see 2 cars up ahead of me that haven't moved in a while. That would be pushing it for the Angamas. It would put them right up close to the territory of the marsh breakaway females. But let's go and find out. I think I'm going to stick close to home with this weather moving about. But windy weather, it's good hunting times, good hunting potential. For those of you that missed the sunrise safari, speaking of hunting, but saw yesterday's sunset safari, so if you missed the sunrise but saw the sunset, I went straight back to where the leopard had the giraffe kill. All that's left is one slightly mangled leg in the tree. The rest of the kill he appears to have dropped down, and I think the hyenas have dragged it away, and there was no sign of him. I don't think he went far, but the grass is long there. There's lots of small bushes for him to hide under. And we tried this morning, but we just didn't have any success. Quick, over to Brent again.
Got it. Standing by. Alice, are we live? Sorry guys, they just disappeared through a thicket and they've caught a tiny baby impala. This is not for sensitive viewers. We couldn't get up to the hunt. We actually came through the thickets. They ran into the thickets when they saw this tiny baby impala. So fortunately, with so many of them, it's going to be gone very quickly and it's not going to suffer at all. I mean, you can see it's so small that you can't even see the impala. D'Artagnan's late to the feast. As I said, this windy weather will often benefit them, because I don't think the impala or all the other animals heard them as they started charging through the bush. They can hear them fighting. So you can actually hear some of those strange noises cheetah make. And so this is not going to last very long. It's going to be gone in 2 seconds, if it's not almost already all gone. I'd say it's a couple of days old, so a lot of the bones will be very, very soft, so they're going to be able to chew through most of them. And you can, every now and then you'll just catch a glimpse. You can see how small the little ribs are, and that tells you how young the impala was. And you can see how even cheetah with their non-powerful jaws are working through the rib bones very easily. There might be 1 or 2 bigger vertebrae they might struggle with, but I think that, probably not on an impala that size. Now you can see one always pops its head up, making sure that there's no potential threats close by. Because even with this wind, hyena's sense of hearing was so good, and that baby impala did bleat a little bit. If there was a hyena close, very close to here, then it definitely would have reacted. But I'm keeping a close lookout. But even if the hyenas did arrive now, I don't think there'd be much for them. But crowned lapwings have arrived. There we go. You can hear them alarm calling at the cheetah. And James Richard says, once these boys get moving, they sure get things done quickly. Isn't that the truth? That was split seconds from when they were sort of lying about, a bit of grooming, and all of a sudden one just took off through the croton thickets. I say that should be quick sticks to finish this. Probably just a little bit of skin left now. They're still keeping a lookout. George is saying he's surprised they're not fighting more over such a small meal. Well, at the moment, there we go. I was about to say, as soon as it gets less, then there will be a little bit more fighting. So D'Artagnan's got off with the biggest piece, even though he was the last to arrive and didn't actually make the kill at all. But as I say, that an impala of that size is not going to provide very much food at all for these 5 boys. I'm just going to move back a little bit so we can see. Oh, and let's just see if they make an attempt to take the kill back. Thought about it. Just make sure there's no cars behind us. We never know. There we go. How's that, Fuja? So there's a little bit of a battle going on over the pelvis by the looks of things. With the other 2 there, one's got its grips on it. Now that might be the only bone, the top of the pelvis and the thighs, that might be a bit too big. As I said, some of the vertebrae might be too big for them to crunch up. It's incredible how fast they move. that wind. You can see it blowing the flowers around. The flay ink flowers. They were like lightning. Adrian's wondering, are they not afraid of being attacked by bigger predators? Very, Adrian. Oh, here we go. Are we going to get a little bit of a play from D'Artagnan? Oh, maybe not. So, yes, they are. Very much so, Adrian. That's why they are quite alert. On a small carcass like this, they'll try eat as much as possible, as quickly as possible. Actually, on all carcasses is what cheetah do, in case a larger predator makes an appearance and can disappear with it. So on average, as I say, they lose about 50% of all their kills to larger predators. This wind definitely worked in their favor this afternoon. Making short work, and you can see finishing off. So they've managed to actually munch up a lot of the pelvis there, now down onto the little legs. There we go. Andrea's commenting on that wind. It is particularly strong. It's actually probably dropped off a little bit in the last half an hour compared to what it was. I'd say during the middle of the day was when it was at its worst. It was really strong, and the boys were just hunkered down in the thickets. Here we go. I'll clean you if you clean me. The bonds in coalitions, whether they be cheetah or lion, are always very important. So even though they were scrapping over the scraps of the meal, a little bit of allo grooming and cleaning each other is very important, especially after those little scraps, to reaffirm the bonds between the coalition members. You got a fright from a tail. Oh, here we go, sneaking in. Jonathan's wondering what determines when or how or what or the cause of the musketeers to possibly split up. It'll be a dominance play between the different cheetah. As I said, they're still quite young, and when they start breeding, that'll be whether they're going to stick together or not, whether one or two or maybe even three of them are happy with whoever's the dominant and can do the most of the breeding, or is not happy with that situation, and they might split up then. Of course, the more common reason for cheetah coalitions to become fewer in number is lions. Lions are the greatest threat to cheetah out here on a day-to-day basis. There we go, here's the fighting. Costa V is wondering, is one of the cheetah wearing a collar? Yes, it is. That is D'Artagnan. And he's been collared by the Mara Cheetah Project, and he's part of an ongoing research program on dispersal male cheetah. Hey boys, well done. That didn't last long. So as I say, I'm pretty sure they're going to hunt again once they've finished off the last of this baby impala. Probably hope for something a bit bigger. And you can see how quickly it's taken them to almost completely eat every single scrap. There's just a bit of skin left. Whoa! Wind nearly blew my hat off. There we go, you can see not much left at all. It's getting a mouthful of fur there. So, as I was talking about, the bonds between coalitions are very important, and the affection you see between the different individuals is very important in the maintaining of a strong coalition. As soon as there's less affection, it'll probably mean that the coalition is likely to split. And I say it's going to be very difficult to see until they start competing for mating rights, whether they will stay together or whether they will split. So, as I said, it didn't take them long to scoff that at all. Still no sign of hyenas or vultures, especially with this wind. I think everyone's going to struggle a little bit to hear, or even the vultures might struggle to fly. They might get above it though. So there we go. You can see that very important ritual cleaning. It's cleaning the blood off each other, but it's also reaffirming those bonds, because they might have given each other a smack while feeding, or a snarl, or a bite. So it's very important for the cheetah now to re-establish or reaffirm those coalition bonds. Bear's wondering, are the coalition boys bigger in size than a single male cheetah in this area? I would not say so at all, Bear. So they're pretty good size. Actually, so some of them are quite small compared to some of the male cheetahs I've seen in the Mara, but they are still young and they're still filling out. But I wouldn't say they're any bigger than a cheetah that was by itself, or a coalition of two male cheetahs. Now, Brent is wondering, what is a king cheetah? And a king cheetah is a color morph, a genetic mutation in terms of where the spots fuse and become stripes, and it is only in southern Africa, Botswana, Zimbabwe, and South Africa, the only place king cheetah have ever been recorded, and the last one in the wild was in the 70s, so a long time ago. So it's like leucism, or leucism, which is a lack of pigment. It's actually a stimulation of melanism, but not full melanism, which would make a black cheetah. It's just that produced more melanin, and the spots are fused into stripes. This wind is horrible, but good if you're a hunting cheetah. Matt's wondering, will the cheetah hunt again right away, or will they wait a while? They'll do a bit of grooming, but I think they will get up and move. Not necessarily to hunt, but they're on the move, so it is possible they'll hunt again almost immediately. Or they could wait a while, and I've seen them do both, so it all just depends. Shirley says they ate their food so fast, is that going to make them sleepy? Well, they've got very high metabolisms, and that wasn't a lot of food. They can eat a lot more than that very quickly, so they might have a little rest, but I still think they will be moving on in not too long. They are. There we go. Oh, D'Artagnan's still got a few little snitbits, but other than that, it's all done. Proud Cat Mama would like to know, is there an average amount that cheetah will hunt per day? No, it is again one of those questions that is completely dependent on circumstance. So there is no average. If they catch a big wildebeest, they won't hunt for 2 days. But if they catch a baby impala like this, they might hunt 5 baby impala or baby Thompson's gazelle in a day. So there's no set or average amount that cheetah will hunt in a day. Well, we're going to stick with them, see if they do get on the move and on the hunt again. While we do that, Jamie's still searching for big cats of her own.
Well, I haven't found a big cat, but from one endangered species to another, most definitely not a big cat, but quite big. There we go, what a lovely surprise. I saw some vehicles earlier on looking or gathered together in this particular spot, and I was wondering if maybe they'd found a lion, but this is just as good. A pair of black rhino, one of whom is enjoying a Sunday afternoon snooze. And it looks as though the two of them have spent the day at the spa. In fact, that one has got mud almost over its entire body. You missed a spot, my friend. Just right at the top. So you'll never see a rhino rolling right over onto its back. Hence why the top of the shoulders doesn't have any mud on it, but the rest of it does. Rhinos love a mud wallow, and it has been hot today, even though it is windy. So a really good opportunity for us to have a look at, well, a couple of different features of the black rhinoceros and what makes it different from the white rhinoceros. First of all, the shape of the head, the way that the head is held, because we call them black rhinoceros. Technically they're hook-lipped rhinoceros, and you can see why with that hook-lipped rather than the wide lip of the white rhinoceros, and they use that to break off branches. It's quite a prehensile lip. Branches, leaves, anything like that will form part of its diet, as opposed to the grass of the other species. Now, I was a bit worried when I first drove up, because often wind can, in particular with rhino, make them rather unsettled. Makes total sense as to why. They're very, very short-sighted. Their eyesight it's terrible, to say the least. They pick up on movement, but only at around about 50-odd yards. And usually their response is to try and investigate it and to try and smell it, rather than to actually try and see, because they just can't. The calves' eyesight is a bit better than the adults, but the adults have a very keen sense of smell and a very keen sense of hearing. Now, at the moment, our smell's been blown away from them. So they know that something's here, and the one on the left is particularly alert. They know that something's here, and they're probably aware that it's vehicles, because they can probably hear the sound of the engines and people talking. But the wind has made their lives more difficult. I love the fact that we can share rhino with you. Electric floss, did I hear that right? Electric floss. Electric floss, a rhino will typically in the wild. Hi, how are you? Good, thanks. It has been a long time.
How's it going?
Sorry about this. Floth, electric floth. Sorry. Where the lions? I don't know, you tell me.
I've not seen it.
No, me neither. Okay. Cheers, man. It's good to see you again. Hi, guys. Apologies. Electric sloth. Electric sloth. Is that it? Is it electric sloth? Right. I'm sorry, it's terrible. I just see one of the other guides that I've got to know recently over the past few weeks, and I haven't seen him in a while because I've been on leave and he's obviously been on leave. Right, electric sloth. Got it, finally. I apologize. A rhino will typically live between 30 and 40 years, up to 40 years in the wild. So they're long-lived animals. And that applies to male and female as well. 30 to 40 odd years. It's a long time. That's how long they should live, at any rate. Another thing about a black rhino, just while it turns its head, and I'm not sure whether we've got a male or a female here. I'm inclined to say it's a female, but it's difficult to judge with size because, of course, a female can live for 40 years. I have seen female rhino that are just as large as their male counterparts. It's more tricky. But as she presents, or it presents its profile, it's another thing about black rhino you'll find, particularly in older animals, is that the secondary horn, so the one that is behind, the shorter one, that will often grow almost as long as the front horn. At times they even look as though they're going to touch as they grow. Now, for new viewers, this is a very important fact to talk about. A rhino horn is made of keratin. It is the same substance, essentially, obviously different way that it's structured and laid out, but essentially it is the same substance as your hair and as your fingernails, which is what makes it so tragic that it's used medicinally, because there is absolutely zero medicinal value in a rhino horn. You might as well go and eat a bowl full of your own hair, perhaps clippings from a beard, or chew your own fingernails. Doesn't sound very appetizing, does it? But the sad reality is that there is a belief that it helps with all sorts of things, from hangovers to colds to cancer to other human conditions. Proud Cat Mama only in the beginning. So Proud Cat Mama's wondering, oh, I promised you I'd find a picture of the rhino growth, and I completely forgot. I've got it somewhere. The horn can only be used in determining age when the rhino is still young, and it's used in combination with the size of the rhino next to its mother. And once they reach around about the age of, let's say, 8 or 9, or even up to 10, after that it becomes more tricky to tell whether or not, or to gauge the rhino's age. The best way to do it, of course, is the condition of their teeth. But again, as I always say when I talk about that, you have to get a rhino to open wide, and they generally don't do that. So once they've reached that age, the horn grows continuously. That's one of the reasons that's put forward in terms of dehorning rhino, and why they have to, if you do dehorn them, you have to dehorn them every 5 or so years. But they rub their horns down, that the horn continues to grow. So you can't really utilize it. But I mentioned that the secondary horn often in older individuals grows up to the size of the first. That will give you a little bit of an idea, but it's not accurate. And just like human beings, you know how some people's hair grows very, very quickly, some people's fingernails grow quickly, some people's fingernails grow slowly. It'll be the same with rhino. And that horn, used for defense, and for the males, used for battling off other males. I think this is a female and a calf. That one on the one that's lying down to me looks quite small. Probably around the region of 3 years old. If she hasn't had another baby by now, then that would be the right age. And she's got an oxpecker friend. Oh, no, she doesn't anymore. She had an oxpecker. My World, Your Music, none, which is very sad. So My World, Your Music is wondering about white rhino, and if there are any left. There are none in the Mara, which is a pity, and the reason it's such a pity is because this is such a perfect habitat for them. So black rhino tend to favor quite closed habitats. They will come out into the open like this, but really they like to be in dense vegetation, whereas a white rhino loves a thermida field. In other words, they love red grass, and there's plenty of that to go around, and this probably would have an enormous carrying capacity when it comes to white rhino. But unfortunately there aren't any. There's probably somewhere in the region, the numbers, we'll have to get an accurate count, but there's in the region of around about 30 odd black rhino in the Mara. So this massive area, we're so lucky to see them as often as we do. hopefully, no, not hopefully, definitely, that number's growing. So that number grows all the time. They are protected here, and there's always a ranger around these sightings, making sure that these rhino are safe. And in fact, she's in the best possible place, where she is. Hey girl. I think it's a girl. Another thing to look at, of course, is, speaking of them being monitored and looked after, see those cuts and nicks on her ears? Those are artificial. So she would have been darted, and those would have been cut into her ears by a vet. The reason being, it's the quickest and easiest way of identifying individuals. And when you've got a population as small as this, it's important to be able to monitor each and every single individual, and it's important to be able to recognize them. So what you'll find is that they'll have identity kits where it's basically a drawing of a rhino's face, and each one has got different notches in their ears, which then helps to determine exactly which individual it was. My favorite rhino in the whole wide world was a female called Notches, and the reason she was called Notches was she had 3 right next to each other. In fact, her whole ear, the whole side of her ear, was completely notched by the people who had notched her when she was a calf. She also had a split horn, so she had almost looked like she had 3 horns. Oxpeck is coming back. So while our affectionate female rhino stands guard over her calf, which I'm almost 100% certain is the scenario that we have here, let's go across to a bonding session between the musketeers.
There we go. You can see lots of bonding going on, and a tiny little patch of skin on the ground is all that's left. And obviously I'm sure you can hear the gale force wind. That is really, it seems to have got stronger again. The boys don't seem to mind though. Remember, this is 100% live, coming to you from the Masai Mara in Kenya, and we're with the largest known coalition of male cheetah, 5 boys together. And they recently, if you've just joined us, killed a young impala, but that's not going to suffice for these boys. The hunger is there. Their concave bellies, they're going to be up and on the move again, looking for some more potential prey. But first, it's time to just lie on a termite mound, because that's what you do when you're a cheetah. As I said, I don't think it'll be too long before they're up and on the move again. They've got incredibly fast metabolisms, so they digest whatever they kill very, very quickly. And something like that small, shared between 4 of them, is not even going to touch sides. One of them's sporting a little bit of a limp. Virginia would like to know which one of the boys is the oldest. I'm not sure. It's almost impossible to tell at this age. Sorry, the wind is really about to take me away. It's impossible to tell. I don't know if you can even hear me over I'm going to try and put my head down so you can hear me over this wind. It's impossible to tell which of the boys is the oldest, and they're all roughly around the same age, which is about 2 or so, 2.5, I'd guess. I might be wrong, but if I remember correctly, that's how old they are. Oh, horrible wind. So there's the one who's got a little bit of a limp, nothing serious. And as I said, I think they will be on the move again shortly, but I think they might have a little snooze beforehand. All coming to join now. All 5 will be on the same termite mound shortly. Flop. See some wildebeest in the distance, but I'm not sure they're going to head that direction. Right on the opposite valley there. So, Lady Leah would like to know, when is the cheetah mating season? Well, like all big cats and domestic cats and dogs, there is no set mating season, and they mate throughout the year. It's when the female comes into estrus, that is when they will mate. Oh, wind! Go away! Can't even think with this wind pounding through here. So it is, you see how they're cleaning their feet now, and they will do a bit of grooming while they get rid of the blood that's left over from that baby impala. Probably because it tastes quite nice as well, but it is, they are very, very cleanly cats. Well, not really, they're quite smelly and they'll be full of parasites and fleas and ticks, but as wild animals go, they do tend to like to keep themselves quite neat and tidy. Oh! Windy, windy, windy. I still wonder if they're going to head in the same direction they were heading when they started moving, or are they going to change their direction completely and head towards those wildebeest in the distance. I don't know. I think they're probably going to head further to the west again. Now, Holly would like to know, how large is these cheetahs' home range? Well, they actually have a territory, being males, and their territory will have a core area and a less core area. Their male cheetah can have a territory of up to 30,000+ hectares, so over 60,000 acres, but their core range within that will probably be about half. Now, it also all depends on whereabouts in Africa you are. So, for example, these cheetah have a much smaller territory than a cheetah that lives in the desert in Namibia would have, because of prey abundancy. So because there's a lot of prey, they don't need a lot of territory. Now, female cheetah have home ranges that overlap with other female cheetah, and they can be much bigger than the males. And so what males try to do is form the core part of their territory around an area where multiple female home ranges overlap, because otherwise they would never ever find a girlfriend. Our heads are still all up, nearly all clean, not quite, but nearly. Now, even with this howling gale, the vultures managed to spot the cheetahs. I'm not sure from where, but they're waiting quite patiently on the other side. There we go. While the boys are napping, the vultures are waiting for them to move away from the remnants of that carcass. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I don't think there's enough food left for 8 vultures, but they will try. Okay, I'm going to try reposition a little bit so this wind isn't blowing me away. But while we do that, let's go back across to Jamie and Kefaru.
There we go. Our little one is up and following along behind Mum. So well, I was correct. It was a female and a calf. It looked like it was a little one at the back. So 2.5-ish. Maybe. Yeah. 2.5-ish. Little spray of urine there. I think it might be a boy. It's hard to tell because, of course, they don't spray their urine properly until they reach sexual maturity, in which case their urine sprays backwards. Might also just have been the wind. So there goes Mum and little one. Hello. We're talking about rhino, white rhino in the Mara. Remember that it would have been a different subspecies as well that would have been found in this area, the northern white rhino. And of course, unfortunately, although not extinct yet, the northern white rhino has reached the point of extinction. The last remaining wild male white rhino, his name is Sudan, and he lives in Kenya, not in the Mara though. So unfortunately, if white rhino are reintroduced back into this area, it will have to be southern white rhino, because Sudan has reached the point where he's essentially past breeding age, and finding him a female even from a zoo, while it has been done, has not proved to be successful in the birth of a northern white rhino calf. Look at the typical head-up approach. I'm just going to wait for this vehicle to come past me and then I'll turn around. Laura, wouldn't it be easier to tattoo the rhino's ears instead of cutting them? No. I'll give you one very, very clear reason why that would not be a better idea. First of all, there's two reasons. First of all, tattooing could actually take a fair amount of time, which the longer a rhino is under anesthetic, the more dangerous it becomes. Rhino do die. A lot of animals, there's always a potential risk, just like with human beings in general anesthetic. So that's one of the problems. The second problem is the big one. Remember how we said this rhino is covered in mud? Now, if it were to have a good spa day, that spa day would reach it all the way. It would be covered in mud from the tips of its toes to the tips of its ears. And the tattoo would be covered up completely. And that, of course, would make things very difficult. Whereas notches stand out very clearly. So it's done quickly. They're immediately given antibiotics as soon as that's been done. A long-acting antibiotic. Jumbo! Long-acting antibiotic as well as some antibiotic spray. And they go on their way. Probably, yes, with a slightly sore ear. But it heals quickly. And they often do it to themselves. And then you have to add it to their identity kit. They often rip holes in their ears. 2 retreating bottoms. What a lovely sighting they've given us. Mum and little one. Let's see if I can see what the little one is. Oh, it's dark. I think it's a boy. I think it's a male. Yeah, it's a male. It's a young male calf. So tricky to tell. Like with elephants, the testicles of the rhino, the male rhino obviously, are internal. So it's not always obvious or easy. Aren't they spectacular? The whole car's rocking as the wind blows. I've got my head ducked down almost in the footwell, so that you can hear me over the wind. Okay, as we say goodbye to our rhino and I duck below and shelter, I think that Brent is experiencing something very similar on the other side of the river.
Well, we're trying to keep ourselves out of the wind and still keep a close eye on the musketeers. But they're still on top of that termite mound. Heads are still up though, which is always a good thing. After a little afternoon tea snack, they're having a little rest before they head off on the move again. I'm pretty sure they're going to move. Oh, there we go. Come on, that's it. Are you going to get everyone going? Oh no, we're just going to give some kisses. So some more grooming between the different individuals. Isn't that gorgeous? Oh, there's a little bit of rain about. Oh, now the wind's decided to creep back in again. I thought we'd managed to position our backside towards the majority of the wind, but it keeps swirling. But well, we've been lucky enough to spend the whole day with these boys, even with this incredible howling gale. It has been quite a pleasant day. And you can see a big cold front is being blown in by this gale. I had a look at an app earlier that shows you the wind and whatnot, and you could just see these green streaks of wind throughout the whole of East Africa today. Well, the majority of East Africa is experiencing this incredible wind. So I'm really wondering which way they're going to go. There's some big congregations of wildebeest to the south and to the east of us. I don't know what's over the next little rise, but there could quite easily be stuff that's moved in there during the day that wasn't there earlier today. Their general route at the moment, they have been sort of very much staying in this area. I think they might head a little bit further down to the west, back down towards the Rongai Valley, and they've had some very successful hunting in that area. There's still quite a bit of still quite a few wildebeest around. Now, of course, these wildebeest are not part of the main migration that moves between the Serengeti and the Masai Mara. They are from the Loita herd. The Loita herd remains resident in Kenya throughout the year. They don't always stay in the Mara itself. They do move out of the Mara towards the Loita Hills, and that's where they get their name. That's their traditional birthing ground. But last year, they didn't seem to go all the way to Loita, and they stayed in the Mara, or some of them stayed in the Mara. And it's going to be very interesting to see what they do this year coming. Oh, these two are being very affectionate. Maybe one smacked the other one a little bit hard while they were eating on that impala. Denise is wondering, do the cheetahs ever come after our tracks? Nope, they've got no reason to. We're not food. We don't smell like food. We smell like petrol or diesel and oil. What if that cheetah spotted? Nothing, just sitting up. So no, and also cheetah will try avoid conflict with anything too big. Even a large zebra male would be a bit too much, even for 5 boys like this. So no, they do not come after our tracks. Neither do the lions or the leopard or the hyena. They don't. As long as you drive carefully and respectfully and you don't irritate the animals and push them into corners, they should never ever come after us in the vehicles. Now, vehicles only been around for about just over 100 years, so the animals have no real understanding of it. They do not have an instinctive response. They haven't evolved around vehicles. So, for example, if you stood up on the bonnet where a cheetah or a lion or a leopard could see the bipedal figure of man, they've all been competing with hominins, whether it be us or our ape-like ancestors, for many moons. That will cause them to react differently. However, in the vehicle, they don't see that bipedal figure. They don't have an instinctive response to that, so they completely ignore us while we're in the vehicle. Now, you do get animals that can be a bit skittish around vehicles, and that's generally when they haven't seen them at all, and that's when you've got to really gradually acclimatize them to the vehicle, habituate them to the vehicle. But no, almost all animals I want to have very little to do with our vehicles. Where to next, fellas? What adventure are you going to take us on next, Mr. Musketeers? Well, we're going to stay here trying to hunker down from the howling gale. While we do that, let's go see what Jamie's up to on the other side of the Mara.
I'm looking for a place to hunker down from the gale, but I can't hunker down from the gale without an animal next to me. So where have all the lions gone? This place is full of lions. Why can I not find one? Or a leopard, or a cheetah. I'm not fussy. My rhino have gone, so I can't hunker down next to them. So we just have to brave the climatic conditions until we find ourselves a cat, or an elephant, or a something. There we go. Oh, these roads are the ones the worst hit when it rains. Fortunately, they're dry at the moment, but it does make for a rather bumpy passage. Craig, is that a lion or a log? It's a log. It's a log. Seen a lot of lion logs today. Lion logs, cheetah termite mounds, leopard bushes. I'm really good at it. Look, even the black-bellied bustard is miserable. Not even going to do his call, because what's the point? His voice will just get blown away. Or not. I don't know that you're going to be able to hear that call. It is one of the best bird calls, I think, in the world. But with this wind howling the way it is, I don't think you'll hear anything, unfortunately. Well, we will hear something. And that's just wind on microphone noise. Well, at least he's sort of semi-enthusiastic. He just seems to tuck his head in as soon as he possibly can. One more go for us? Because the motion is entertaining. I'll try and do the call. I'll try and time it with his call. No, he's shy. Or he doesn't want a voiceover artist. That's fair. I don't do a very good impression anyway. Oh. No, that didn't work. Right, well, it's blowing a gale out here in the Masai Mara. I'm not sure what the conditions are on Djuma this afternoon, but let's send you all the way across to South Africa, where Noel has found something next to the water.
Thank you, Jamie. We do have something interesting next to the water. It is a foam nest, a frog's nest. It's the first one I've seen here in Djuma for the season. So the foam nest frogs, the male and the female, get up on there, and he does something called amplexus. He sits on top, and she rubs her legs, and they deposit this nest with their goodies inside, and then the little babies, when they hatch, they eat through and then drop into the water and then carry on their life cycle from there. Again, good afternoon. I am Noel, and on camera we have the French connection, Sebastian. Hello. It is humid and very, very, very warm this afternoon. Don't forget, we are interactive. We are live. You can follow us, #Safari Live on the Twitter or on YouTube chat. And we love your questions, so send them through, send them through. All right, back to frog mating, and ooh, there's a beautiful little reflection that's coming up over that bit of foam nest frog nest there. So it's very obvious they're very, very white, and they'll do it over these little seasonal pans to catch whatever rainwater has been deposited in these pans. And then for the rest of the season, you'll see them. They're very interesting. I find them in my house often. They change their color from a sort of gray color to a white color, depending on the heat and whether they're in the sun or not, to help protect themselves. And when they're not mating like this, they are hibernating to a point, but they just find a nice little moist area where they can reside. But for now, it is definitely a frog that we will hear when it gets a little bit cooler, and I'm hoping we can manage that later this afternoon. All right, plans. Sebastian and I are sweating quite heavily, so we're unsure of plans. Concrete plans at the moment. I've been hearing more about these cheetah that have come through from the Manuletti. They're still just tracking. As far as I know, there hasn't been any sign of them, but they were heading east and south, which means hopefully they'll pop up in our general area. Tundi went back to her den site this morning. We have no visual on her. Hassana, last I heard, last night was at Little Gowrie, so we'll try for him. And then I think maybe we'll head over to Chitwa Dam. But while we're busy heading over to the dam hoping for some elephants, let's head over to Tristan, who would love to say hello.
I would love to say hello. I've had a few drives off, so it's always nice to be back out in the bush and being out in the wonderful sunshine. As Noel mentioned, my name is Tristan, and on camera today I've got Wiem the wildebeest, and as you saw, we were gazing upon a beautiful torchwood that's providing some shade for us. Now, we are coming to you live and interactive from the Sabi Sands, so that means #Safari Live on Twitter or YouTube chat if you would like to get hold of us. Now, the plan for the afternoon is I'm not quite sure. I've just come along Vulture's Nest and just driving around this area to see maybe we get lucky with some sign of Tundi. At the end of the day, I'm sure if she's still got the den and she's still at that particular area, she's got to go for water at some point, and so I'm hoping to try and find tracks. I know that apparently VM said to me that James had tracks for her this morning on walk in this particular area, so we're just having a little look around, see if she's maybe not at one of these water holes, and then from there we're going to head towards Cheetah Cut Line and just check around Cheetah Cut Line and see maybe Tingana crossed in from Torchwood. I believe he was in Torchwood this morning, so that's the kind of plan for this afternoon, but we'll take whatever comes. It's, like I say, really nice to be out after a bit of sort of cold weather and rain. I haven't spent too much time out, and it's nice to see how green it's become, and I'm sure there's lots of interesting things to look at, so it should be a wonderful afternoon. Now, from here, I think we'll do Nyala Road just to check on those little mud wallows and have a little look there, and then maybe we'll do up towards Central and then along from there towards Cheetah Cut Line. I can't really go up towards Buffelshoek Dam with Gowrie repeater down at the moment. It's probably not going to be the best idea to head up that way. I'm pretty sure we won't have too much in the way of signal, so we'll try and stick to the central parts of Djuma. We'll hang around the Mulawati a little bit, and hopefully we'll get lucky with one of our spotted cats. If not, it doesn't really matter. There's lots of other things out and about. The woodlands kingfishers are going absolutely crazy today. They've been non-stop, as they are probably for the rest of the summer. So we're going to hear a lot of them, and I'm sure there'll be lots of interesting birds out. There should be a few butterflies after a bit of rain and having some sunshine like this, so the Mulawati will be a wonderful place to check for butterflies, and well, anything else that we can get along the way will be wonderful as well. Now, while I'm driving down Vulture's Nest at the moment, it's quite a difficult road now because of the amount of rain that's fallen. It's kind of washed the road clean and it's become very hard, and so I'm trying to just check on all the sandy areas for any signs of footprints of one of our cats, because ultimately if Tundi did cross anywhere here, I doubt she's going to walk on the road too much. It's a typical thing of cats that have cubs and are busy denning, is that they don't actually walk on roads in a sort of linear pattern. What they do is they generally just cross over, and the reason why they do that is because it makes it much harder for things like hyenas to actually follow them, because their scent gets lost in the grasses as opposed to just walking along a road. Hyenas can pick them up quite easily. Now, somebody who has not battled to find a spotted cat this afternoon is my friend Brent Leo Smith, all the way in the Masai Mara, and I'm sure he's having a wonderful time as he follows those sleek, slender, spotted beauties around for the afternoon.
Well, they still haven't moved at all. They're still on top of their termite mound, perusing the surrounds. There's not much else about. I'm close by to them at the moment, but as we know, that can change in a split second, as it did a little bit earlier this evening when they jetted off after that baby impala. You can see some imposing clouds making their way in, being pushed in by this gale-forced wind we're experiencing today. Now remember, this is a live African safari, and you are able to ask us questions by using the hashtag #SafariLive on whatever platform you might be watching on. Ty Burge would like to know, what bird is faster than a cheetah besides the peregrine falcon? Well, the answer to that is many, lots, plenty, a huge amount. Lots and lots of birds. Any of your small little raptors, your goshawks, your acceptors will all be able to probably get faster than that. I'm sure terns, swallows. What else am I thinking? I'm definitely missing some seabirds that can probably go quite a bit faster. I mean, give you an example. A black-bellied bustard, which is not a very streamlined or agile looking bird, is capable of flying at 65, 70 kilometers an hour. So if they can do that speed, I'm pretty sure there's lots of other birds that are going to be able to absolutely wipe the cheetah if they were on a flat line race. And of course, birds don't have to touch the ground, so less friction. So there's I'm sure, numerous bird species that are actually faster than a cheetah. Sushen is wondering, are cheetahs able to eat much faster than the other big cats? Probably not. They just need to eat a lot faster than the other big cats. So they need to, because the chances of them losing their kill to the other big cats or hyenas is very, very, very high. A 50% chance that they're going to lose their kill. So I'd say all the big cats can gulp it down, and I've seen lion and leopard do it when they're about to lose their meal to another lion or a leopard, but it is not something they have to do as often as cheetah do. And on bigger prey, cheetah will normally start at the rump, most meat, no bones, and enables them to get as much down as possible before their kill is stolen. In certain cases, a lone cheetah will even relinquish its kill to a big enough group of vultures. I've seen 60 vultures chase a cheetah off a kill, and a bite from a vulture's beak might do some damage to the cheetah that will cause it not to be able to run or hunt. Now, obviously, when you're in a coalition, it's a little bit easier. You've got some back backup, and you don't have to do all the killing yourself. So when you're a single animal, it is a little bit, you got to be a lot more careful, and you take a lot less chances. Now, there's another animal that's not going to do too much moving during the daytime hours. It likes to wallow about, be a little bit lazy, but it does it in the water. Let's see what Noel has found.
That reminds me. Alright everyone, sorry my connection has come off. Excuse me about that. Hippos, yay, at Chitwa Dam in front of Chitwa Lodge. Alright, so this morning I had an extremely interesting question about, do hippos get leeches on them? And it's not something that I had ever, one, thought of, or two, ever heard of. And so I did a little bit of research this afternoon regarding that, and I asked a few of my guiding friends that have been in the industry for quite a long time. They also have never heard of hippos having leeches. Something that's interesting, without being able to show you a leech, I think let's look at the hippo. Without having a leech in front of us and without being able to show the sort of body structure and things to you, I just want to talk a little bit about them. Leeches are not wholly parasitic. They're not a parasite or a sanguineous all the time. It's not that they need the blood all the time, very similar to an oxpecker. What they mainly feed on as adults would be dead snails, dead freshwater snails. And when the little ones are little, they feed on live, smaller snails, just as a thought. So they're more opportunistic when it comes to their need for blood, and it's not something that they need all the time. The hippos are agreeing with me. I never tire of that sound. So as we came up there, you can see Chitwa Lodge in the background. As we came up, Seb and I were very envious of these hippos moving about in the water, as it is so hot and humid at the moment. It looks like we might get rain a little bit later in the afternoon, if not us, possibly someone near us. I could think you guys can see that sort of cloudy buildup in that sky there. And hopefully it won't be too thick. Hopefully we'll still get a very nice sunset this afternoon. Now, sadly, there are no elephants swimming or bathing in the dam as we had hoped. Just our cheeky hippos. And I'm actually on the lookout for our tiny little hippo that was born last week. Let's say 8 days ago, I feel like. The other two have grown immensely in size. I know there was one born sort of towards the end of October, and he's probably doubled in size since then. What you'll notice with a lot of aquatic mammals, hippo, whales, things like that, is that the milk is super rich from the mums, and so their growth rate is quite large, especially when it comes to whales. For hippos, it's not as quick, but it is essential because of predators with things like crocodile, but then also with movements in their habitat. Now, we're focusing in on the youngsters for you here, sort of playing with the mum, and every time we do this, the ones off camera keep yawning, and I swear they're doing this on purpose. So we're gonna go back to these two who keep displaying. So that yawn is called a gape. Yeah, see, now they want to hide. They're very camera shy. I'm so sorry, everyone. That yawn is called a gape, and some of it is stretching just to get everything moving as it cools down before it goes dark and then they come out of the water. But it's also a bit of a display. Basically, look how large my tusks are, look at the size of my mouth. And specifically for large males, it's a show of dominance, and then for younger males, it's a play on that for when they get a little bit older. Can we hear all the bird chatter in the background? Ooh, Proud Cat Mama, you're asking how you tell the age of a hippo. So Proud Cat Mama, for me, when they're younger, it's a lot easier, especially with the size of their head in relation to mom's head. But then sort of after about like a year or two, they're pretty much fully grown, year or 2, 3 years, so they're just that age. I couldn't tell you with an adult hippo unless it was very, very old to be able to say it's very, very old. This is a thought. I'm glad you guys can hear all that bird chatter in the background. We have a huge amount of weavers, both red-billed buffalo weavers, village weavers, and I think it's the southern mouse weavers that I'm seeing now, busy building nests. So we've got lots of red-billed buffalo weavers inside this dead tree here. And then over towards our 10 o'clock, there's a, Seb, at our 10 o'clock, there's a kingfisher that's just landed to display near these weavers. Sorry guys, we all love a woodland kingfisher. There we go. Just flew up and had its wings out and was displaying, and there's a second one flying in just below. Oh, beautiful. There we go. Yeah. Basically showing off for each other. Look at me, how pretty I am, mate with me. There's the water thickney, or dickop as it used to be called, calling in the background there. And then they're off. Ooh, he splashed down, he's back. Had a little drink there. We were chatting yesterday when we saw the woodland about them being insectivorous, and I forgot to mention that I've also seen them catching small lizards and eating them. I was sitting at dinner one night many years ago with guests, and we had a small little watering hole, and one dove down just to the edge and picked up what looked like a skink, or a gecko rather, a gecko, and came up and ate it. We're trying to see if they'll display again for us so you can see that flash of blue, and then you'll notice they'll turn as well. So they'll open their wings, they flash the blue, and then they turn so you can see that bright, bright white. It would be similar to us as humans sort of putting on full makeup and having a nice outfit and showing off. And yes, guys, you are correct. It is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful bird. Now, with the weavers, just getting my binoculars out. You can see, yeah, Seb, you're reading my mind today. These ones are not in full breeding colors, and I actually feel like I just got a view of what could be a sociable weaver on the side there. Oh, it's flown off. And then there's some females mixed in there as well. Very sort of drab looking. I want the sun to come out from behind the clouds so we can see that little pop of yellow, but it's unfortunately not doing ha 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 ha. There we go. There, you can start to see that pop of yellow a little bit more. Now, with the woodland kingfisher, both the male and female are those beautiful bright, bright colors, but with these weavers that we're looking at, the males will go into a very bright breeding color scenario, very, very, very yellow, and then depending on the species, sometimes they get a little bit of orange or rust on the side, and then the females are sort of drab like this. It's more the males that need to display their skills building the nests and the color as well, as opposed to the females. They're going to choose off of there. That one on the top left is having difficulty with that branch. Sorry, man. Choose another one. Yeah, no, we're going back to the same one. Shame. Kathy, you're wondering if they ever impale themselves on the thorns. Kathy, I have very rarely seen birds impale themselves on thorns. So these little bits that are sticking out here are what's known as a spine, so it's a modified branch. So it is pointy at the end, but they can also grab onto it quite nicely with their feet. They've got passerine feet, so 3 toes forward, 1 toe back, that allows them to grip quite nicely. I have seen juveniles of some larger birds sort of trying to navigate within a spiny or a thorny bush and having some difficulty, but I haven't seen too much problems with them impaling themselves. I can hear our Deirdre's cuckoo in the background. Can we hear it? I think the weavers are too loud. That Deirdre's. We're still on the hunt for the Klaus's cuckoo. I heard one this afternoon. Wonderful sounds. I heard one this afternoon, and James Richardson, I thought of you. I am determined. Between myself and Tristan, this will definitely happen. We're going to get you a Klaus's cuckoo on camera. I refuse to let this season go by and have it not happen. Your phantom bird. But we all have a bird like that. We all have a bird that sort of gets away from us. There we can see one of the youngsters from the hippos resting on the mum. I said there's a really beautiful view just in front of us at about 12:30 of that 3-banded plover and this little... Perfect. The sun's just peeking through. That's really gorgeous. Picking up insects on the edges of this little mud pan here. And maneuvering very quickly so as to catch its prey, but also when something's small like this, you don't want to stand still for too long because you yourself could become prey. Now, while we're watching him, I'm keeping an eye out for evidence in this mud of a sand beetle larvae. We were talking several weeks ago about a friend of mine that was busy with assessments for track and sign on a senior level, and one of the amazing photos that he sent me during his practice, and then I was practicing with him, was of sand beetle larvae, and I am now super keen to try and show it to you. So Seb, if you want, we can come up here of the screen. So that mud that 3-banded plover was just meandering around in, this is what the sand beetle larvae would look like. This is the type of track, oh sorry about that, the type of track that it would make. Oh, and that reminds me, while we're busy with this, I found out the answer to our insect question from yesterday. So let me find that photo for you for anyone that wasn't watching. So I went back home and I asked James, I asked a couple of guys, what do we think this is? Do we think it's, you know, a beetle? Do we think it's a grasshopper or like an instar, a sort of instars are the maturity level, and they molt and they look different throughout their instars constantly. And then I sent it through to a very good friend of mine who works in the Timbavati. Here's the photo there. Sorry, we're just busy focusing for you. Can we all see that there? And it turns out it's a young armored ground cricket. So I'm not quite sure if we've shown the armored ground cricket on the show before. They're a lot bigger than this. This little guy is probably the size of your pinky nail, maybe a little bit smaller. And they get very gray and they eat each other and they're everywhere. So this is a young version of that. And it was new for me. It's new for a lot of the people that I've talked to. So thank you so much, James Stain, for that wonderful answer, and always being able to answer every question that I have. And so now I'm interested to see how many more we can find. Another friend of mine that works in Mozambique was saying he sees these young armored ground crickets sort of in little swarms, but this has been my first season that I've seen them. So we'll have to keep our eye out for them. We've got a fish eagle, Seb, that's coming into land. Beautiful. One of our resident fish eagles. We've got a pair that lives here at Chitwa Dam. Flew off over our heads earlier. I was hoping that it would go on a little fishing expedition, but it seems to have not found anything to eat. Alright, so we've done some excellent birding, and we've had some good hippo audio, but I think now that the clouds have really come through and the sun's gone away a little bit and it's starting to cool off, I think let's go on a little bumble and see what we can find around the dam and farther into Chitwa property. Okay. Let's be on our way. Go across the dam wall. We'll have a look-see down. Maybe we get lucky. Maybe little Hassana is down there. So while we're busy looking, let's head on over to Tristan and see what he has found for us this afternoon.
Well, I did have some dwarf mongoose, but they've left us for dead. They've left us all by ourselves, unfortunately. So there was a small little grouping of them that were all kind of scuttling about on this fallen over tree to my right, but they've decided that this is not where they want to be. They've decided that they're going to go and run into the grass, get away from me, and not be visible at all. Actually, there's one that's decided to show itself. So I love these little guys. I can always spend quite some time with them. As I drive along and you kind of see them scuttling about, it's always worth just stopping and having a little look around and seeing what they're busy with. They generally are up to something and up to no good. They're chasing little things or digging or playing with one another. And I mean, Noel had that crazy interaction the other day with the black mamba where they got that snake up into the tree and they were all chattering away and really kind of alarm calling and making quite a bit of noise. So they're a fun species to follow around. The problem is some of them are a little bit more shy than others, and so some will duck into grass like this and disappear, and others will sit around and you can actually watch them. So this lot is not the most friendly, so I think we're going to carry on and see if we can't find some others that will at least show themselves to us. Now our search for Tundi has been slowly, well, actually I put it on pause for a little bit because what we were doing is we had a report of an elephant bull very close to where we were just now when you last saw us, and I went in that direction, but either VM and I are blind or our elephant bull has grown ears like Dumbo and flown away, because there was absolutely no sign of this elephant where they said it was. And so now I just decided, well, because we were that side and we were in the sort of central parts, that it would be nice to go and just have a little look around and see what else was about. So far a bit quiet though. There's been the odd impala lamb, but not very much else. Now Kirsty is telling me that there is an elephant on the dam cam. I don't know if it can be the same elephant. Maybe it is. Maybe it just decided to run all the way to the dam and beat us there. So maybe we'll meander our way that side. It's actually not the worst idea. Then we can go up Gowrie Cut Line and we can check along maybe Hyena Road, Nyala Road, north-south, those areas in case Tundi's been lurking in that section. So not the worst idea. What we'll do is we'll go through Philemon's Dip and then we'll take Ingwe Alley, which is our little sneaky road that's not so sneaky anymore. It's now become a full-grown road. Scott will be very happy. I remember when I was living in the UK for a few months, and it was just when Scott and Brent had arrived, and I started watching because I knew both of them, and it was also nice just to watch from, you know, a bit of home from when I was outside of the country. And I remember them driving this particular road, and it was just a little two-track. It almost looked like a sightings road. Now it's a full-on, proper, kind of graded, well looked after, well maintained piece of sort of land, and it's easy to drive on. So I'm so sure Scott's going to love the fact that this road is like that, because I know he used to like driving it quite a bit. He used to be a firm favorite of his, especially to find Kunyuma and quarantine. So I'm pretty sure he'll be happy to be back and to be able to check these areas again. Right. The good thing about this road is it's got a number of little wallows at it, and now wallows are great in weather like we've got today. The sun isn't really shining too much, but it is quite humid, it's quite warm, there's a few storm clouds that are building, and so it is going to drive animals to start already coming down for water early in the afternoon. And you'll find on a road like this that's quite near a drainage line, lots of little wallows and puddles. It's great for small antelope species, nyala, duiker, steenbok, those kind of things, and that in turn attracts some of the predators. So hopefully we'll get lucky on this road, and while I kind of negotiate it and see what I can find, let's go across to Noelle, and hopefully she's got a bird and it's the one that she's searching for.
Hi Hi everyone. So we were leaving the dam and then we got to the edge here and we had a greenback heron, some pied wagtails, but then our huge croc that we saw this morning, that big mama croc, started meandering around this fallen over tree that's in the water. I can just see her underneath. Oh, thanks, Seb. And it looks like she's looking for something. It's interesting. She had her mouth slightly open and she was maneuvering. Now I can see one of the hatchlings where they normally are, and she's heading in that direction. I just want to keep an eye on her. I'm not quite sure. It's also possible it is in the water. It's also possible that it's not the mommy croc, that it's the other croc that's in the dam. And it's also possible that maybe there's some fish or something that's in there that she's busy after. All of this is just conjecture. I'm just curious, just keeping an eye out. And then just to the, we're just going to leave her for a second. If we go just to the right there, we can see our hatchling. And there's that greenback heron, but there's one of the hatchlings. I've still only seen the one today, and our green, oh, you can see two. Thanks, Seb. Yeah. And there's our greenback heron is making a run for it past past the hatchlings. It's amazing how they're in the same spot always. I would guesstimate that they were born quite close to here. Sometimes when they're born, the mum will put them in her mouth and sort of transport them to the area that she wants. That's also possible that that happened. And I think she's just resting. I think we got overly excited with all of her movements, and now I think she's just resting. Our green-backed heron has gone up into this dead tree towards the red-billed buffalo weaver's nest. There we go. And is busy having a look around. This is one of my favorite birds. I don't know why. I just find them appealing. And they're quite interesting when they're hunting. Tristan had some really great action last week with this same heron, busy fishing away at the edge here. And so we've been waiting with bated breath to see if he does anything. Getting bird action and sort of hunting action with these guys is a little bit harder, and it sometimes takes a lot longer, but we have Brent with stalking cheetah, so let's head up to him, because that hopefully will turn into a bit more action than we have right now.
Welcome back, everyone. The Musketeers are on the move. Alice, there we go. I'm just going to keep quiet for a few seconds. Welcome everyone, welcome. We are with 5 male cheetahs known as the Musketeers. They are busy slowly creeping up towards, well, they got sidetracked by a little argument amongst themselves. Oh, you silly cheetahs. You've just given it away. There's a bit of politics going on amongst them, but that little fight has caused the prey that they were stalking to spot them. They were stalking 3 topi and a single Thompson's gazelle. But now they have been spotted, so the game is up. But there are lots of animals around here. If they keep heading in the direction that they are now going, away from the topi and the Thompson's gazelle, about 700 or 800 meters away is a herd of wildebeest. But let's just have a look. There might still... Oh no, some of them have decided to flop down. So, flop. That little argument ruined the hut. Now topi are snorting and charging towards them. Remember, this is 100% live from the Masai Mara in Kenya. We cannot predict what's going to happen. We can just try be in the best possible spot at the right time. So now what quite often happens is that when antelope spot something like a cheetah or a lion, they will move a little bit closer and they will start snorting at it to tell the other members of their herd, or even the other antelopes close by, that there is danger abound. Now, there's a howling gale of a wind today, So the cheetah are probably going to move away from where those animals are and up towards where there's some wildebeest and zebra and some Thompson's gazelle, and I doubt that they're going to be able to hear the snorting of the topi due to this very, very strong wind. And Jaina says she just loves these naughty boys. And there we go, they're up on the move again. And they are heading in the right direction towards a herd of wildebeest. Small herd, but they'll try and pick out a sub-adult or a youngster from that herd. We're just going to stay put where we are for a little bit longer. I just want to see their body. What we're looking for is their body language to change as soon as they get closer to those wildebeest. There is some available cover for them as well, which might make the stalk a little bit easier. Now, they did catch a small antelope, a baby impala, a bit earlier today, but for 5 boys, that's not much food at all. Donna says this is so awesome. Indeed it is. Isn't this incredible, Donna? We are bringing you cheetah hunting alive. Well, failed hunting, but still on the hunt, and I think we're just going to stick with them for a little bit. I'm going to get a bit closer though, just to make sure I can choose the right direction that they're going to go. By the way, I forgot to say hello. My name's Brent, and I've got Ja on camera, and we're following the musketeers on the hunt. Okay, so they're moving towards what we call a lugga in East Africa. A lugga is this little line of trees you see here. It's most of the time it's a little dry creek, but when it does rain, it does flow. It does hold certain spots, will hold pools of water. So we've got to be a bit careful finding a spot to cross it. Okay, let's have a look. Where are those cheetah off to? Hold on. Now, also, one of the things I've got to really take into consideration now is where are the cheetah going to go? Are they going to head towards the wildebeest, which are just up to my right? I'm just going to stop quickly so you can have a look. Or are they going to keep heading due north almost? On top of the hill, unawares at the moment. Now, while the cheetah move, they might disturb something else that gets them on the go. They will chase anything, even a little hare that they might disturb. They might find a little dik-dik hiding in these thickets, or a reedbuck. Oh, bumpy, 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 bumpy. So I'm just going to position myself here to see where they go to next. The moment they're doing what cheetah do. We're just going to wipe the lens. There is a bit of rain, so if you see that cloth, don't worry. Remember, this is live, happening right this very second. So we have to deal with the elements, the bumps. So it is quite exciting and quite unique. They're a little bit to the left still, coming from the top of the termite mound. And where are you? Just come out a bit so I can see where you are, and I'll I can see them. They're on top of the termite mound, just to the right of the gardenias, if that helps. Ah, there we go. Caster says, what amazing landscape. Indeed it is. Now, you can see some vultures just at the top of screen. That's where they were, where they killed the little antelope earlier. But there was a very slim pickings for the vultures. I'm sure the vultures will be hoping that these guys catch something a bit bigger and leave some scraps for them. Now, as I say, if you have any questions, just pop them on the feed below. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, there's 5.